Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, news, music, lifestyle, pop culture, everything really depending on the guests. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. We're talking about a horror film called Phobias coming out March 19th on VOD and on digital. And we were speaking to Martina García about this. Martina, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, so happy to be in Popternative. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Right off the bat, what was this project like compared to others you worked on in the past? This is a horror film. This is a really bumping genre right now. What was it like working on this film, Martina?
Well, it was my first horror film. I've done some psychological thrillers before, but nothing like this. It was really fun, and I think it's, the subject on mental health and phobias and fears and control and all of that is very timely.
Now it's interesting too because this is like an anthology. One can make an argument too. There's different segments, correct?
Yeah.
What was
Yeah,
that like, kind of working in the anthology genre as well? Because that's really interesting too, like different stories.
Yeah, and different directors. Each story has its own director, so it was great. My segment is directed by Camilla Bell, who is also an actress, and it was just amazing to work with her. And then meet all the four other leads and that were performing the other phobias, and we just ended up all meeting and working together with Jess Barley at the end for the end of this story. So it was really original, and it was very new to me to work with different directors for the same project. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
There's a lot going on in all the different segments. There's a lot of kind of things kind of thrown in because it is horror, but you said about the mental health and the awareness and a lot of things going on. What do you think about films like Phobias that are packing in so many different elements and they're not just kind of focusing on one or two elements? Because that's what I find very interesting about this film and all the segments. There's a lot of stuff kind of thrown in, Martina.
Yeah, well, I think it's become pretty evident with the pandemic that we all have fears and phobias, and whether you want to hide them or not. Like, there's no way you can relate to some of the characters. So as you were saying, like there's like a bunch of different phobias in the film, and yeah, all come from different places, and it's anytime you can just like have a trauma, and anytime, any day you can just go through some experience that creates trauma within you, and then you basically have to have PTSD, and then have to get triggered easily and just relieve the trauma all the time. And it's great. It's just great that we can all get familiar with those terms and with mental health, and it's just something that's been put out there in these times.
Was that something that grabbed your attention when you were reading the script and when you were kind of going for the role for this, kind of the awareness raising and flagging kind of mental health? Is it safe to say that was something that stood out to you?
It's definitely a theme that I'm interested in. Definitely, it's something we should all pay attention and just not stigmatize people who suffer from some kind of phobia or trauma, and not just think they're crazy people and that their traumas come out of nowhere. But I'm very interested in learning, and I'm very empathetic, so I really like to understand where some behaviors and why people are the way they are. What's their story, their personal story.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's interesting how dynamic and how complex this horror film is, rather than just like a film about, murder and like jump scares. Like there's a lot more.
Yeah. And some monsters that come at midnight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now here it's like the monsters are in your head,
It's a mind game, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are more things than just and that's why I think the horror genre, because you said it's your first horror film, but I'm sure you were kind of blown away with the quality and the popularity of the genre, because there's different ways to scare people these days as well. You don't just need the jump
Yeah.
scares and the gore.
Yeah, totally. And as you were saying, it's not like the like a common horror film with monsters and stuff, but it has some depth. And yeah, I was more familiar with psychological thriller, and this is not too far away from it. It definitely touches on some of these themes. And yeah, I mean, there's like, we're all humans, right? And you can see that how vulnerable we are, and how we're all going through this experience of life with a lot of challenges. So yeah, like even if it was a horror film, there was this humanity to it that I loved.
Absolutely. Before this too, you've also had an opportunity to work on a lot of really cool TV shows. One in specifically is you got to work on Narcos, which is one of my favorite shows. You played Maritza in season 2.
Okay.
And it's crazy because that show is just so much, again, kind of like Phobias, so much is kind of going on. We'll get back to Phobias, but I just quickly want to ask one question. What was that like, being part of a show like that really took off on Netflix as well?
Yeah, well, it was great. It was a great experience. And, as an actress, you always want to have those kinds of roles where there's a lot of conflict and there are layers. And as in Phobias, there was a lot going on in Maritza's life. There was,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was definitely like not just, it wasn't an easy thing. It was very surprising, and it was amazing to get the script every time, because they would do this arcs that were just mind blowing. And she ended up like having to like a lot to do with the mafia and with the DA and with like with everyone around her.
She got
And
thrown into a lot of situations where she didn't think it was going to be like that.
yeah, totally. Yeah, so that's just great. As an actress, you kind of want to have those roles.
Did it blow
um,
your mind a little bit though about how popular that show was? Like, see, especially like before, like Narcos Mexico, like the first two, like the Pablo Escobar seasons, how popular it was worldwide. Like, it was watched by so many different countries, Martina.
Totally, it was crazy. Like, I would go to LA, and yeah, people would recognize me, and then in Paris as well. And then I would have people from Italy or England, and yeah, it was definitely a great show, and I was so lucky to be in it. And I believe people really loved it.
Yeah. And two more quick questions about Phobias learning experiences. You talked about your first film, but can you go into detail a little bit more about learning experiences for you working in this genre and working on a film like this, Martina?
It was cutting a little bit, so sorry.
Some
If,
learning
the
experiences on Phobias, yeah, like just some learning experiences you've had specifically working in this genre.
Well, yeah, I think I never I learned how to shoot a gun. I had never done that before, and how to use knives, and how to hit people with plates. And, I learned a lot
Stunts. So in
a lot
other
of
words,
things.
stunt work.
Yeah, totally. You never know when when you're gonna use that those new skills. So yeah, we had some stunts rehearsals, and especially for the diner scene, action scene. And yeah, it's always fun to just prove yourself that you can do those kinds of scenes, like demanding action scenes, and beat all these guys by yourself. Well, with a little bit of help from the stunt team. But anyway.
After
Yeah,
working on this film and seeing kind of the trailers and seeing that it's coming out, does it kind of make you Like, what's your opinion on the horror genre? Do you want to work in this genre more now that you worked on Phobias? Like, what do you kind of think about all that?
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, definitely. I remember as a kid, I used to like this genre of films. So yeah, why not? I would love to do another one, and as long as they're, it has some, as we were saying, like some story, like some interesting thing going on, and not just the scary part. I think it's just, yeah, they're cool things to do out there, and people like it a lot. That's what I'm learning now. I'm discovering that people love horror films, right?
Yeah, I love horror films.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
exactly.
now. I do
For-
now too, after Phobias.
yeah, absolutely. Martina, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you guys.
So,
at Popternative.
yeah, absolutely. So, March 19th, people are going to be able to see it on digital and on demand. Phobias. And it's really exciting because it's Calm Before the Storm. It's going to be out very soon. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Oh, great. So I'm on Instagram at Martina Garcia.
Perfect.
It's like MartinaGarcia.
Well, we hope to see you in more horror movies, so fingers crossed. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Well, this has been
Looking
Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Martina Garcia from Phobias and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.